To whom much is given, much is required. Part of that requirement is sharing. Culture is the heartbeat within our lives, and it's at the core of so many things. While we live in a time when we are starving for wisdom, I welcome you to your wisdom retreat at Culture Raises Us. Megan Carle, aka Meegs, is today's guest. She's the brand executive with over 30 plus years experience and is a consulting resource for other executives and brands where she provides strategic marketing advice in the consumer product space. She recently wrote an amazing book that highlights some of the key elements for what I'll call corporate survival tools. But before we have her kind of walk us through her journey and insight, we'll start with our signature question. When you hear culture, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm so happy to be on here, and I've listened to so many of the episodes on Culture Raises Us. I mean, what a fantastic job you're doing. And so I got to double down on Culture Raises Us. There's a reason that you went with that, and so I'm gonna put my chips on that because when you think about culture, it starts to sort of become, well, it's this and it really is that thing that lifts us up. And so then I'm gonna raise that and follow the thread down into straight into family. So family really is that place and that heart and that salve and all those things that I identify as my first understanding of culture. I'm from Spokane, Washington, small sort of idyllic upbringing. However, my parents were divorced when I was very little. And this is back in the late 60s where this was, whisper. This is like broken family. Right. You don't talk about it. We're Catholic. Watch the sort of shame storm of that on my mother. And then, I really was blessed with an incredible, incredible family from grandparents, aunties and uncles, massive amount of cousins who are my dearest friends. And so I saw, and unbeknownst to me, I sort of started to piece these things together that, well, this is our culture. We have my mom who's from Astoria, Oregon. So the food we eat, we get seafood, but not very often because it's expensive. The music, so the records, every Saturday morning, turntable, boom, Frank, Tony, Marvin, Barbara Streisand, Diana Ross. I still remember when she got the Diana Ross album and is down there hoovering to "I'm Coming Out," just absolutely. And then my stepdad comes on the scene. He brings his culture. And he's from Tucumcari, New Mexico, Route 66, Dust Bowl, tumbleweeds, right next to Amarillo, Texas. So he's bringing his culture, his upbringing, his, Tex-Mex, sopapillas, tostadas, all that music, country music, Waylon, Willie, the Charlies, Pride and Rich, Don Williams, all that. And so they just kind of meld this thing as they meld our family. And that for me, I double down on culture all the way. As we talk about workplace, one of my favorite definitions of culture, because I think it really, I know when I stumbled upon it, it really made me sit up straighter. And that is that the culture of a workplace is shaped by the worst behavior leaders will tolerate. And that to me was an incredible, just sort of like, let me take that in for a minute. So love culture raises us.
No. And so listen, I love the road that you just went down. Had no clue that your music portfolio was so deep and so rich. Love that, but so reflective of, just how impactful cultures are and just how influential they can be. But you just made a very powerful statement of a workplace culture being one of, say that one more time.
So it's shaped. It's Gruner and Whitaker. I got to give them proper due here. Gruner and Whitaker, and its culture is shaped by the worst behavior leaders will tolerate. And if you think about it, whether it's in the workplace, on a team, in a relationship, association, organization, whatever it is, when you see A kid's throwing a tantrum on the sideline, kid go in. That coach just told the rest of the team that is the worst behavior I tolerate, and that will shape our culture from here on out. Oh, well, so then I can throw a tantrum or I can be late for practice. I don't have to run lines when you tell me to. So I found that was a moment for me when I stumbled upon that thing.
And that's a gem because the way that you broke it down, I was waiting to see how this was going to be the bow on top of the comment, which is so impactful. The correlation that you even made or the example you made of the parent, that's immediately where I went, right? In
Yep.
terms of the culture in a household
Yes.
with parents and children and what they allow and don't allow. And it's almost like this element of, you just said it, this is going to be tolerated only to this level. And thereafter, there's going to be consequences that take place because this is not something that we are going to support and enable. And that same type of mentality, you're 1000% correct, is evident in corporate cultures or any culture
Right.
for that matter.
Right. And it's so interesting because then when you enter, you bring all this wiring and all these experiences with you to all of these places, and not everybody else has the same. Not everybody was blessed with, you know, great grandparents and
That's right.
moms and dads, and even if it's the broken family, God, I made out with greatest stepdad, the greatest, Big Dave, my stepdad. Both my parents were teachers. Big Dave was a basketball coach. He brought four boys into the family, so I already had one older brother, and I'm like four maybe.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I got five older brothers. I am the true six man off the bench.
Right.
I'm the true six man, Astor, back in the day. So, so to me, it just all worked that way. And so then when you enter the workplace, you sort of like, well, that's my norm. Oh, that's not your norm. Oh,
Right.
your norm. You come from a place of fear, and you come from a whole other setup. So now we got to figure out, how do we navigate this thing together?
Together.
So
And respectfully,
yes,
right?
yes,
Understanding that your way is not necessarily the way for everyone and being open to be educated on the why of other ways and then figure out what the best way is for all moving forward.
right. And that's the
Yeah,
beautiful thing, right? That's we're in a virtuous cycle then, right?
exactly.
And we're popping.
Exactly. And so, we had the opportunity of working together at Nike for a very long time. And for many there was always this thought that many people didn't have to deal with some of the challenges that I'll say many of us did. And you were one of those people that I assumed didn't have to navigate through some of the challenges of many. And that obviously is not the case, as you wrote the book, Walk Away to Win, which explores the theme of leaving these toxic environments. And a great deal of it, I believe, is based on your personal experience, I'm assuming. And can you share some of this personal experience and other observations that kind of led you to this, what I call a very courageous step of walking away?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I'm a female in a male dominated organization, in a male dominated industry. So I am going to be faced with certain obstacles, just from the get go. And in writing the book, I ended up interviewing, I don't know, 40 plus people. Workplace bullying affects 80 million workers in the United States. It actually breaks down to 1 in 2 workers. So this
Wow.
thing that is affecting 1 in 2, and yet it's known as the undiscussable. So nobody wants to talk about it. And you know me well enough to know that I want to dive through the portal on that one.
That's right.
What is that? What does that mean? Why is that happening? Who's it happening to? Who's doing it? And so once I, sort of got into that place of, I didn't allow this to happen to me. This wasn't something that was happening to me because I was doing something wrong or
Right.
I was asking to be mistreated. Um, I I also realized I'm not in this alone. There's a whole lot of people across the country that this is happening to. And then finally, when I sort of figured was able to shift this idea of winning and defining my own win in terms that made sense to me, then I was able to kind of put this book together. And so really those interviews with other people, men, women, non-binary, having those conversations and feeling the energy and the emotion that is still tied to even talking about the mistreatment, the experience that we all shared, that was cathartic for me. It was very hard. Number one, it's very hard to write a book. It's a
Yeah.
super heavy lift. You know, hats off to people who can do this multiple times. But it also just showed me so much about, what was happening in the workplace. Name your brand,
That's right. That's right.
name your company. Because when we've got that kind of number, we know this is happening everywhere.
It's prevalent. It sounds like this was also very therapeutic.
It was super tough. What the book started out really about this idea around trauma. I was kind of both fascinated and horrified by how I felt leaving the place I had worked for nearly 30 years.
Right.
And what I was very confused by is that it launched me back in time to the worst experience of my life, which was the sudden death of my mother when I was 18 years old. And I could not figure out why. Why does that happen? Why does, no offense, Mom, but why do you always have got to be part of everything? Why,
Right.
why
they
was
trigger
I,
that?
right? And just took me out at the knees. And I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, and she happens to be a licensed clinical social worker. And we're doing a Zoom, and we're having a catch up, and it turned into a session.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, why does it have to be about that? Why can't this just be this experience? And she said, well, the 5 stages of grief. I said, yes. Where are the 5 stages of grief? She said, well, they've added a 6th stage, and it's called meaning. And the idea is if you can find meaning in that loss. And I kind of cut her off. I remember saying, like everything happens for a reason, so I'm not really into that. And she said, no, not like that. Just, is there a meaning to you with that loss of your mom? Is there, and it would have been her mother-in-law. And we sat there and she held space. And I said, well, the meaning is me. And the meaning is my voice. And the meaning is my voice that my mother nurtured and challenged and built and brought to life and had space for me always. And the meaning is me to use my voice to highlight, elevate, ignite a conversation around workplace bullying. So I was able to finally sort of like, it's almost just, let's just unlock this thing. And I was able then to push forward.
It was that reminder of your why and your voice.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
when you look at these toxic cultures, they can often erode one's sense of self-worth and value.
Always.
Always. And when I look at your journey, you exemplify for me the culture of knowing your worth and your value. And as I even hear that story about your mother and the why you always went back to that space, it was a reminder of your voice. During your journey, talk about how you managed to remember your own value and maintain your confidence regardless of these challenging situations.
Well, I think at my core, my value was always, it was never in question, even through divorce, and you got to travel to see your dad, and sometimes there's some awkwardness and things like that. And like I said earlier, I think I just, I hit the lottery on the second marriage stuff that both my parents thankfully were so good about never disparaging the other.
Nice.
They were friends. So much so that when you're little, you kind of don't get it. Like maybe
Right. It's
dad
like, is it supposed to be this way? What's
could
going on?
dad move in with Big Dave and mom and all these brothers, and could we just kind of, I mean, it was like, it really was like that. And so I think, I sort of just entered into the world that way, and had all this good family support and love and conversation and curiosity and kindness. And even if you stepped out of line, it was like, hey, let's talk about that. Is that the way we talk to each other, or is that,
Right.
and I'm not saying it was all like unicorns and puppy dogs. And
Right.
I've got 5 older brothers, so I'm licking my food before I leave the table so they don't eat my food. We play
Right.
king of the stairs. I am chucked down the
Right.
stairs. So I think entering into the workforce and entering into relationships, I sort of had that, but I also had there was a challenge that came with that, with this incredible loss that had happened.
Mm.
And I think what happened really is I was able to just sort of turn my grief, anger, and sadness into work, into output.
Mm. Mm.
I didn't have to talk about it. And I joined a company whose values seemed to match mine in terms of, bust your butt, head down, do good work, healthy competition. Let's do this
Mhm.
together. Let's throw ideas up on the board and see what sticks. And then let's support that idea,
That's right.
even if it wasn't the one that you thought of, but
That's right.
man, that's a good one. So I think all of that just helped to fuel what I already was what I'd already been raised with. And then I think that when that sort of got so very challenged in terms of mistreatment, disrespect, diminishing behavior, both publicly, privately, overtly, covertly, I was not ready for it. I
Mm.
did not. I didn't expect it. I was not prepared for it. I didn't understand it. I had, you know, I had worked with abrasive, aggressive personalities. Whether it's your upbringing and you play sports. I
Right.
mean, Big Dave, who's no longer alive, he was, he wasn't John Wooden.
Mm.
You're hearing him from the sidelines. Okay,
Gotcha.
so that's the household. But I think the thing was, it was never conditional. I come from unconditional. It was never, if you do this, then
Right.
I will
Right.
love you more,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And so then I think what happened is, when you meet that sort of, if you do this, then, or if you don't do this, you're kind of garbage. Your whole, just your whole foundation is a little shattered. But you know how to deal with it because you've been dealing with it. I think there's this additive nature of that kind of, you're not enough.
Yes.
It's not enough. You're not fast enough. What the hell are you doing? And that's really, from the interviews I did, that's really what starts to tear people down. Is wow, once or twice, hey, you had a bad piece of pizza last night for dinner. You're in a bad mood. I got it. But this sort of, pattern, and it's
Yeah.
repeated, that starts to really, really break things down. And the fact that I came in with sort of such a strong value system and such a strong idea of my own self-worth, and that thing got me, is,
Right.
that's still, it still leaves me a little speechless.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Walk away to win. You also suggest kind of define success on your own terms that you kind of spoke on a little bit. How did you come to realize that success isn't solely defined by external markers, right? And what advice do you have for individuals who are struggling to kind of break free from the programming of conventional definitions of success?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting question. And I think, again, because I didn't come from external, I didn't come from that need. It,
Mm.
winning put food on our table. Big
Mm.
Dave gets hired again, with a winning season. So it's not
Mhm.
like winning was a thing in my
It's a thing.
household, right? You got big brothers. We are, you're going for, but it's not at any cost. It's not at all costs. It's winning in that great, healthy, competitive way. And it's reaching the hand out to
And
pull your opponent
pull 'em.
up,
That's right. That's right.
right?
Right.
You didn't get this one, but man, you made me better. That kind of thing. So I think I just always knew that. And it's, I've got a 19-year-old who plays at Gonzaga soccer. Our daughter's almost 17. She's a volleyball player. We spend a lot of time on that, control what you can control. And, you can't be attached to the results. You just
That's
can't.
right.
Now, that doesn't mean that that doesn't happen all the time. And it did happen. We drove results hard at the place you and I worked, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we knew the objective. We were reverse engineering to get to that objective. But I think the culture for the bulk of my time there was so similar to what I brought in. And so I think just that idea of getting back to those idea tho- that those um, that what is conditional to you, what is
That's right.
unconditional to you, what does it mean? Um, you know, Profit is not a purpose. And so when you
Mm.
start to when that, I mean, you can feel yourself. You start to, you're doing this. When profit becomes a purpose, you become a whole different
Different person.
thing. It's not
Absolutely.
inspiring. It's
No.
not motivating.
No.
It's
It's
degrading.
transactional. It's
It's
very
transactional.
transactional.
100%. That exact right word.
And you talk about the place where we worked, and you obviously navigated the corporate world at the very highest of levels there. How do you believe, though, that individuals can cultivate this resilience and maintain their sense of self while working within such demanding work environments? Because you even start like it was very demanding.
Yeah, the pace, the adrenaline rush,
Yep.
what we were trying to accomplish. I mean, hey, what do you think about a run club something? Yeah, let's go do it. Let's go build run club. Let's make them digital. I
Hmm.
mean, we are creating things. I listened to Drew Greer's, creating things.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think, um, what we what potentially companies get away from, where you see these things start to devolve into hostility and toxicity and workplace bullying, is it's no longer important or interesting or a priority to actually get to know the people with whom you work.
Mm.
I want to know you so I understand what makes you tick and what do you bring to the table? Wow, that's super cool. I didn't know you, I didn't know you grew up there. I grew up there. And you
Hmm.
start to find this common language. And that is, to me, that's when we're really cooking so well. And if you think back on your best experiences in the workplace, those are those times when, man, that was cool because I knew that person across the table from me had my back, even if we didn't always agree.
That's right.
But I knew, wow, Astor and I we're gonna go out after this. We're gonna go have a spirit, and we're gonna continue a spirited conversation,
That's right.
and that's gonna be all good. So I think that for me, when those markers start to diminish, when you don't, I not only don't know you, I don't want to know you.
I don't want
I
to.
and I
That
don't
part.
I right? And I don't care about you. And I think, we've seen this in beyond, where it used to be we could debate. I could have a
A point of
different
view.
opinion and a
That's
point of
right.
view that was different from you. Now it feels like, no, not only do I not agree with your point of view, you're just wrong. And now I
That part.
potentially want to cause you harm.
That part. Yeah. But I associate that to a level of insecurities that a number of leaders bring to the table, and that causes them to react the
Yep,
way that they do, and not
for
create
sure.
these warm spaces of enabling and empowering and wanting to know someone, right?
That's right.
Because when you think about it, work environments, that's where you're spending the majority of your time. You spend more time at work than you do with your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we might as well create a space where we're welcoming one another so that we can all thrive. But that's not for everyone because
Yeah.
there's a number of people again who their insecurities might play a bigger role in how they choose to respond to things, which helps to then create these type of environments, unfortunately. And I've seen that firsthand on so many levels. And I also look at how, your book discusses this delicate art of recognizing on the other end when it's time to move on, which is so tough for many of us. No when is when, right? Or know when to say when. And
Right.
could you provide some insight into the signs that someone might be in a toxic situation, whether in their professional or personal life?
Yeah, so interesting. So you talked about enabling and empowering, and the opposite really is when you get into these situations where it's about fear and intimidation.
Yep.
I think one of the best but potentially most difficult things that we can do when we're in a workplace that we sort of think like, wow, this place has lost the plot, and
Mhm.
I am feeling it, is trying to get outside of yourself and observe what are you, because when you are the target of workplace bullying, you become so insular.
Yeah.
And there's a research that was done that over half your day is spent thinking about the bully and how you're going to
To maneuver, cheese, bob
maneuver,
and weave.
right?
Oh,
So your work product, your work output,
yeah.
completely drops. So I think one is, can you get outside yourself enough to actually sort of stress test what is this a place of enablement and empowerment, or am I in fearful and intimidating energy? What is happening around me? Those that I interviewed, my my own experience, do you feel sick before you go to work? Is
Right.
Sunday night just the
Anxiety level through the roof.
absolutely? Are you getting emails on the weekend and just so paralyzed by how to even respond to them because you want it to be right? Um, are you afraid to speak up anymore? Do you sleep? Um, do you connect in any way to
Yeah.
anybody? Are you a good fill in the blank? Are you a
Right.
good friend, mama, spouse, cousin, whatever it is? Um, are those things that um, historically would bring you joy and comfort? Do those still bring you joy and comfort? Or are you balled up, under the covers, uh, afraid, sad, confused? I got to the point, Astor, I could have been walking by you down a hallway, and I know you and you know me, and I wouldn't be certain that you could actually see me. And I now know that's because my nervous system was in such a state of total free fall. I
Right.
was dissociating outside of my body.
Mm.
So I didn't even know if I was visible to you.
Right.
So
Jeez.
those are the kinds of things, and you sort of alluded to this. The knowing is the easy. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
Now it's when you know, what do you now do? So now
It's
the
right.
follow-up to
That's the
that is,
hardest.
right, that's the daunting task of
Yeah.
walking away from familiarity and in some cases security, right? So
Absolutely.
now how can individuals prepare themselves mentally and emotionally for that part?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to understand that you're in a situation that is health harming.
Mhm.
And step one for me seems to be, write it down,
Mm.
document what has been happening to you. So not only you may need it
That's
if
right.
you decide to seek outside counsel,
That's right.
um, and you're going to start to see the patterns, and
That's
it's
right.
going to make things clear for you. For me, when I hit rock bottom, by the grace of God, I had an annual physical.
Mm,
And my doctor was alarmed by a few things, and
mm.
then asked me this one question: "What's going on at work?"
And that was it.
And I was in a safe place, and she asked the right question. I was ready to talk, and I remember when I started to tell her the symptoms I was
Mhm.
experiencing. I don't sleep, I hallucinate, I'm paranoid, I have no energy, I don't want to connect with my family. I feel, I drove to work the other day. I drove into a parking space. I put the car in reverse and drove home. I walked in the house and got under the covers of my bed in my boots and my coat,
Wow.
that kind of stuff. So to prepare yourself, write it, document it, get your support system locked in. What happens when we are going through pain and difficult times, often what we do is we hide
Right.
and we don't want to talk about it. Do the exact opposite.
That's right. Get it
Talk
out.
about it.
Talk
Talk
about it.
about it. Get your people around you. Figure out financially how this can work for you. What it I interviewed one woman, and she told me this story about, well, I thought if I ran my car into the median, I would do the least amount of damage while still making certain I was no longer here.
Jeez.
And it would and yet she still worked at the place that was causing all of this harm to her. And I said to her, well, what is your rock bottom? And she thought I was sort of being facetious. I said, no, I mean, really, for me, it was going to the doctor, because
Yeah.
what I realized is I had put my family at risk.
Yeah.
When I put my health at risk, I just put my family at risk. So figure out what the table looks like for you, and then start to get these things lined up and get your support system to help you.
Yeah. And part of that support system, I'm thinking, leans into the importance of self care and well being. And I know you put a great emphasis on that. And how did you prioritize then, this self care during these pivotal moments of transition? And what kind of practices do you recommend to others looking to sustain this well being during these times of change?
It's interesting. Our family, when we are going, we're moving right now. So we're in this whole like, hair's on fire and all the stuff. And we always, Chris, my husband, we
Yeah.
always talk about, okay, master the fundamentals. No big surprise there. Are we sleeping? What's our nutrition like? Are we hydrated? Are we laughing?
That's
Are we
right.
connecting? Are we moving our bodies in any way? So I think, like, starting with just those basic fundamentals, making sure you're doing those things. I will tell you, when I was experiencing, sort of at the lowest point that I was at, I stopped doing all of those things.
Wow.
I really, the things that would have really helped me, I turned away from. I wanted to watch Grey's Anatomy.
Hmm.
I wanted to dance it out with Meredith and Christine, and I wanted to hide. So I would, so help yourselves out. And then, after I left, for example, I think one of the best things I did, and I would share this, is just I made myself the CEO of Yes.
Mm.
And this was an intentional get out, me and Carl, get outside yourself, get outside your head because it's playing tricks on you, um, and serve others. Like,
Mm.
get outside of yourself. So people who had invited me to things or needed help historically, who stopped asking me because I was too busy in another country, not on the same time zone, you know, too busy, too important to help you.
That's right.
I'm all in. You're moving. Let me help you pack. I had a friend going through chemo. Can I drive you to your sessions? Can I
That's
get on it?
beautiful.
Can I be part of a meal train? What's a meal train? I didn't
Right.
even know. Could I be on that? Can I coach my kids CYO volleyball? Not because I'm any good at volleyball, but because I just
Bigger
need
than you.
li
Bigger
I
than
need
you.
I need life force. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and I love that that's the place that you got to in realizing how to push through this. And the CEO of Yes is everything. I love that.
Right? Yeah.
And your journey also involves transitioning from this corporate career to becoming an author and an advocate. Obviously, has this shift also allowed you to kind of further amplify your excellence within the culture of knowing your value?
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. I think it's really interesting. I did this book tour, sort of May, June, did kind of a 7 city launch. And there was somebody who had a question in the audience of one of the cities, and it was a bit confrontational.
Mm,
And I remember sitting there and listening to it. And then I responded to it. And for me, to answer your question, I guess that was just a moment in time where I felt like, oh, I'm back, that I
mm,
understood my value in that moment. That it sounds like a very simple example, but it really was meaningful to me because I had been back on my heels for so long
right.
because of what happened. I no longer believed in my value and my worth. And that took a lot to shake that. Based
Hmm.
upon what I've shared with you, um, I know I wasn't confident. I to this day, and I have clients, I coach clients. I have to this day we talk about like how do you shake that sort of everybody's out to get you thing that
Yeah.
it's like scar tissue, and so you're just I had something happen with one of my brothers, and my brother was like, "What?" And I said, "Well, I kind of felt like maybe you were," and he's like, "Jesus, no, that's not what I thought at all." I
Right. Right.
He's like, "What is?" And I'm like, "I know. Okay, 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 I got it." So yeah, I think it's time. It's finding your lane. It's finding what your bliss.
That's
For
right.
me, that was gosh, this writing the book got me out of bed.
And
That's just a true statement.
how about that? Well, I'm really going to have fun with this question after, learning some more about you from the beginning. The opening scene to your life documentary is about to begin. What song is playing and why?
Oh, oh my God, the opening scene to my life
Life
documentary.
documentary.
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna go. This is such a so first of all, I gotta say, I do have a playlist for my book. So
I'm
you
sh-
should
oh,
go
I love
on,
that.
you gotta go on Spotify.
Love
It
that.
it takes some digging because I don't have that many followers. So to all the people listening to this, go on Spotify,
That's right. That's right.
WATW, Walk Away to Win. So you'll
Love that.
find that. And it's weird because I'm going to actually go off script because the song that I think would open it is the Gap Band. And I'm going early in the morning and I got to get up, right? Early in the morning.
I love that.
And I am, for whatever reason, that song lately, I maybe play that every day. And I'm dancing to that thing and I'm smiling and I feel like I'm in again. I'm in that place again, but better, but better.
I love that. I love that. So that's the song playing. I
Yeah.
love every bit of
You
that.
know that song?
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we normally end these with a question regarding, seeds. So we often make the correlation to cultivators and culture as like farmers. We plant these seeds and we water them, we nurture them, and they blossom into these amazing things. Or we don't nurture them the way that we should, and they turn to something very toxic or not beneficial or just the wrong type of energy. I would love for you to share, as you've already shared such great insight on a number of things. What are three seeds, though, that you'd want to leave with the stewards of culture moving forward, as we know the importance of culture and the ability to shape and mold it moving forward? What are three things you would send people away with as the stewards of it moving forward?
Well, I'm gonna go simple and I'm gonna go alliteration.
Okay.
I had two routes I was thinking about as you were asking. just like so many songs, so many routes. But I'm going to go listen,
Mm,
listen, 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 learn,
mhm.
learn, just like learn, love,
Mm,
just love.
3 L's.
I'm going listen, learn, love.
Listen, learn, love. And you said a word at the beginning of, basic, but sometimes it's about going back to the basics and the fundamentals and the foundation. I mean, even for you, when you talked about values early in this conversation, and you said, I never really lost them because they were all based and rooted on the basic foundational principles that I was raised
Yeah.
on. And so when I look at these 3 L's, it all makes sense that this
Yes.
is what you left as the 3 C's, right?
Yes.
Everything about you is true to your core and your foundation. And so I thank you for that. I don't know if it's a thank you. It's you are being a reflection of who you are by giving that answer and your experience and your reminder for many of sometimes it is about going back to the basics and the fundamentals. And we're so programmed to think that we're supposed to pull things from all these different places because we have access to so many different things.
Right.
But there's some things that are just fundamentally foundational, basic things that you have access to all the time and you've had access to. And sometimes it's about leaning really heavy into those things. So, and I'm saying this as you just reminded me as well to sometimes go back to the basics,
All
listen,
about
learn,
it,
love.
man. Right?
No,
It's
it's
all
all
about
about
it.
it. All
All
about
about
it.
it.
And I got to tell you that this conversation, for one, I'm very grateful that you came on. I'm super grateful that we reconnected in the way that we did to highlight not only yourself, but your amazing book and everything that you're doing, because I do think it's a great tool to help so many people. You gave an amazing stat that I had no clue. 1 out of 2
Yeah.
people are dealing with this. So
Yeah.
this is not a company. This is a societal. This is way bigger than just one company. This is something that's so widespread. So I'm grateful and thankful that you have created a tool that's going to help so many people. And I'm here to support to ensure that as many people are aware of it because we all need the tools to continue to push through.
Well said. I'm in. Thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. It's
Means you've been
wonderful to get to
amazing.
connect with you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. We truly appreciate your support because it helps us fulfill our mission of promoting cultural awareness and personal development. Please click the subscribe button below to help ensure and solidify our mission.